Welcome back. In the last video, we saw lambda expressions and I rushed over it as if they were nothing. And for you, it might have been super confusing and you might be, what is a lambda expression? So let's look at a little story. So here we have Laura and the magic scrolls. In the mystical land of Kodea, young Laura was known for her adeptness in crafting magical scrolls. The scrolls weren't ordinary. They held spells that could perform actions without revealing the magic formula inside. People from all over Kodea sought these scrolls for their compactness and versatility. One day, a villager approached Lara and exclaimed, "I need a scroll that can double any number I whisper to it." Lara, with a twinkle in her eye, quickly crafted a scroll and handed it over. The villager whispered 5 to the scroll, and magically it responded with 10. Curious onlookers wondered, how does this scroll work? Lara explained, think of these Lambda scrolls. In Kodea's programming world, these are like Kotlin Lambda expressions. They are concise pieces of magic or code that take in values and transform them without the need for a lengthy spell or function. Okay, so that was just a little bit of an introduction as to what those Lambda expressions are, let's say on a story level. But now let's look at some code. And therefore, let's put it somewhere in our little application here to really keep it simple. So we have this button and I'm just going to use the button example here because the button just has text, okay? So instead of add item, it will say the result of our calculation. So I'm going to create a lambda here. I'm going to call this lambda double number. And it will work like this. You use the colon, then you say what type you want as an input. Then you use the dash and the arrow key or greater sign. And then after the equal sign, that's where you implement the logic that you want to have. So I'm just going to say it multiplied with 2. So what that will do is then after the arrow, I need to say which type I want as a return type. And then I assign the calculation or like the execution of the code, which will then return the type of int as a result. And how does that work? Well, I basically say what my code should look like. Now my code needs to do a calculation in this case, where I'm just going to say it times 2. Now what is it? It is going to be whatever we enter as an input. Okay, so this double number is not going to be a number of type double. It's going to double the number that we give as input. So now what I want to do is, instead of saying add item, I'm just going to use my double number and I'm going to pass an int to it, and then I'm going to convert it into a string again. So this to string is just so that the text can display it. What's important is this part here. We are calling the lambda function and we are passing 5 to it. Now let's run this code and see what our text at the top will say. All right. So you see it says 10 because 5 times 2 is 10. Now let's look at what happened. The thing is, we used a lambda here. This is the lambda expression, and we're storing it inside of our variable called double number. Now, the variable can be called like a function now, because internally it is a function. It's a lambda function, or a lambda expression is another way to say it. And now we can just go ahead and pass whatever we have inside of these brackets. So as we say inside of these brackets, int, that means that when you want to call this function called double number, you need to pass an int into it. And what you're going to get out is going to be an int as well. Now what the result itself, or what will be executed once this function is called, is this here. Now this here is basically saying this it, whatever you passed in, which is the parameter that you passed in our case 5, will be multiplied with 2. And now the result of that will automatically be stored inside of our double number. So basically making it the result, this thing here being 10, and then returning it as a string so that our text can display it. Okay, but for now, let me revert back to add item and get rid of my double number, because I really want to only display text inside of my button. And this is generally not something you should do where you have complex logic inside of UI elements. This was just really quickly to show you, and it was a very simple calculation so that the app didn't crash. But if you had very complex calculations going on there, your UI thread, so basically the calculator that calculates how your user interface should look like, or the processor, would start to freeze, and then your application would freeze, and that's the worst behavior that you can achieve. But coming back to the shopping list, so if we look at our onEdit click here, we also have a Lambda expression as we have just seen. The only difference now is that we don't take an input, we say no input, and we say unit, which basically also means no output. So it's a Lambda expression that has neither an input nor an output, but it has code that will be executed. So it gives us all the freedom in the world to execute whatever we want. We don't need to have any specific types that we need to pass. We don't need to return any specific types. It gives us just a lot of freedom. And that's what's happening here. Okay, so that's it for this video. I'd say see you in the next one.